Welcome to Millennium Daytime Bulletin. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium News Channel 24. Today I'm bringing you the latest updates from around the world. Let's begin with today's top headlines. US and Ukraine sign critical minerals deal. Israel conducts rare strike outside Damascus amid sectarian tensions in Syria. UK launches strike against Houthis in Yemen in first joint US operation under Trump. Pahalgam terror attack, India warning to Pakistan over hotline. Delhi's move in UNSC, Qatar, Saudi urges restraint. India closes airspace for all Pakistan flights day after Kashmir terror attack. RSS cautions caste census survey should be not used as a political tool. Cabinet nod to Shillong Silchar highway project worth rupees 22,000 crore. Investor optimism lift Wall Street, gold shines in steady commodities market. Never seen a kid like this. Vaibhav Suryavanshi gets unlimited praise from the world leaders and World Cup winners. A talent that comes along every 50 years, genius Yamal steals the show. Now let's look at the details. The US has signed a much-anticipated natural resources deal with the Ukraine, which the Treasury Department said would help with the post-war reconstruction efforts. President Donald Trump repeatedly pushed for the agreement as a prerequisite to offering any future security guarantees to the Kyiv as Ukraine fight against the Russian invasion. Also in the statement, the United States said that the agreement signals to Russia that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine. The deal will see the creation of the joint Ukrainian-US investment fund to search for minerals and set out how revenue would be split. According to the statement from the US Treasury on the Wednesday afternoon, the newly created US-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund recognizes the significant financial and material support that the United States has given to the Ukraine since the Russia invaded in the February 2022. Also, latest updates in the details of the deal. President Donald Trump envisioned that the partnership between the American people and the Ukrainian people to show both sides commitment to the lasting peace and the prosperity in the region, that is Ukraine. Also, Treasury Secretary, that is Scott Bessent, said in the statement, and to be clear, no state or person who financed or supplied the Russian war machine will be allowed to benefit from the reconstruction of Ukraine, he added. Also, he said in the video statement that the deal would help unlock Ukraine's growth assets. Also, Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister, that is Yulia, also flew to Washington on the Wednesday after an apparent breakthrough in the negotiations. In the post on X, also, Yulia said that standing outside the Treasury building in the Washington, said that the fund created by the agreement would attract global investment into our country. Also, the announcement comes after a delay which the United States authorities said was a result of the Ukraine attempting to negotiate already agreed upon aspect of the deal. Also, we are ready to sign this afternoon if they are, Bessent said earlier on Wednesday, adding that Ukraine decided to make last-minute changes to the agreement. Also, on the Wednesday afternoon, a US source familiar with the talks criticized the Ukrainian and the Ukrainian people for the seeking of the reopening of some terms that had apparently been finalized over the weekend. Both the US and Ukrainian teams worked through the night on the Friday into Saturday to agree the documents as well as the early morning on the Wednesday, the sources have said the BBC. Also, they added that the sticking points have also included governance of the fund, the transparency mechanism, and steps to ensure that all funds would be fully traceable. Syria strongly condemned foreign intervention in the country following the rare Israeli strike near the Damascus on Wednesday amid deadly sectarian violence. Also, Syria said that the Israeli strike killed at least one security officer and injured several other people. Also, earlier on Wednesday, Israeli military said that it had carried out a strike on the outskirts of the Syrian capital, saying it was targeting an extremist group that attacked the Druze community, a religious minority in the country. Also, in the joint statement on Wednesday, Israel Prime Minister, that is Benjamin Netanyahu, and the Defense Minister, that is Israel Katz, said that the operation in the town at the Sanaa, the southwest of Damascus, was a warning action against an unidentified armed group that was preparing to continue attacking the Druze population. Also, Syria's foreign ministry reacted, saying that it had an unwavering commitment to protecting all the Syrian people, including the honorable Druze community. According to Syria's state news agency SANA, Syrian government offices and forces launched a wide-scale operation in the area surrounding the Sanaa to arrest outlawed gangs after an unidentified armed group attacked the Syrian government checkpoint late Tuesday, wounding 3 officers. Other groups simultaneously opened fire on the civilian and the security vehicles in nearby areas. Recent violence left at least 11 people dead and dozens injured. Also, Syria's top Muslim cleric, that is Osama al-Rifai, has called on all the Syrians to keep calm and not escalate the situation. Everyone must stay from away of the calls for the revenge and retaliation and allow justice to take its course, Rifai said, and also the adding of the recent events that have taken place in the statement cited by SANA. Also, 2 local journalists in the Damascus told the CNN on condition of anonymity due to security concerns that the clashes in the Sanaa broke out between the fighters loyal to the Syrian government and militiamen from the Druze minority. Since the fall of the Bashar al-Assad regime, Israel has positioned itself as the protector of Syria's Druze, an Arab community that follows an offshoot of the Islam and is predominantly present across Syria, Lebanon and Israel. Wary of the new regime led by the former jihadist, a small minority of Druze have welcomed Israel's overtures but may have also publicly denounced them. Britain's military launched air strike against Houthi targets in the Yemen on the Tuesday, with the US forces, its defense ministry said, the first public acknowledgement of the joint operation since the Trump administration escalated the US campaign against the militant group. Also, the strikes targeted a cluster of buildings south of the capital Sana'a used by the Houthis to manufacture drones, which the group uses to attack the ships at sea. Also, Britain's Ministry of Defense said in a statement released on Wednesday, also the Royal Air Force sent the Typhoon fighter jets to the target of those buildings, dropping precision bombs, and after the dark, following very careful planning to allow the targets to be prosecuted with a minimal risk to the civilians or the non-military infrastructure, the statement has added. All the aircraft returned safely, it added. The Iran-backed Houthi began a military campaign in the solidarity with the Palestinians when Israel went to war in Gaza in October 2023. Also, they have repeatedly attacked the US Navy ships and commercial vessels in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, 2 waterways that are critical to the international shipping routes, and fired missiles at Israel in response to the United States that has tried to disrupt the primary weapons and the destroying of the marine, that is the drones and the underwater drones. The UK has also participated in joint strikes with the United States against the Houthi before, including numerous operations in 2024. But Wednesday's statement marked its first acknowledgement of a joint strike since the President Donald Trump launched his aggressive military campaign against the group, vowing to use overwhelming force to stop the Red Sea attacks. Tuesday's joint operation was in line with the long-standing policy of the UK government following the Houthis initiating their campaign of attacks in the November 2023, threatening the freedom of the navigation in the Red Sea, striking international ships and killing innocent merchant mariners, said the ministry statement. Also, John Healey, the UK's defense secretary, said the strike aimed to prevent further Houthi attacks, adding that a 55% drop in the shipping, though the Red Sea has caused regional instability and damaged the UK's economy. Since Trump began his accompanies of the campaigning known as the Operation Rough Rider on March 15, US airstrikes have pounded the Houthis' target in Yemen, hitting oil refineries, airports and missile sites. The US military acknowledged carrying out over 800 individual strikes in the months-long campaign, while while the analysts estimate dozens of Houthi military officers have been killed. But so far, the US operation has had limited impact in harming the group's operation, and the militants have successfully shot down many multi-million-dollar American drones, hindering the US ability to move into the phase 2 of the operation, the US official told the CNN last week. Also on Monday, the Houthis alleged a US airstrike hit a prison holding African migrants that have been killing dozens. The deadly terror attack in the Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir on the April 22, 2025, which claimed the life of 26 civilians, have significantly escalated tensions between the India and Pakistan. Also in the aftermath, India has taken a firm stance warning the Pakistan against unprovoked ceasefire violation along the line of control, that is LOC, and engaging with the international community to highlight the issue. Meanwhile, the regional power, that is the Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, have also called for the restraint from both sides to prevent any further escalation. India's stern warning to Pakistan over ceasefire violations. Also, the Director General of the Military Operation, that is the DGMOs of the India and Pakistan, held an hotline conversation on the April 29 to address recent unprovoked ceasefire violations by the Pakistan Army along the LOC and the international border. India issued a strong warning to Pakistan, condemning the repeated breaches and emphasizing that Indian forces have responded firmly and proportionately to these provocations. Also, the violations, which have intensified since the Pahalgam attack, were reported in sectors including the Naushera, Sundarbani, Akhnur, Baramulla and Kupwara. Also, India's diplomatic outreach to the UNSC has also bid to the garner of the international support that India have been reaching out to the 7 non-permanent members of the UNSC. Also, the External Finance and the External Affairs Minister, that is S. Jaishankar, have also been actively engaging with his counterparts, including a recent conversation with the Kuwaiti Foreign Minister to underline India's position and need for collective action against terrorism emanating from the Pakistan. Calls for the restraint from Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. Amid the rising tensions, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait have also urged both Pakistan and India to exercise restraint and avoiding any actions that could further destabilize the nation. These Gulf nations have emphasized dialogue and diplomacy as the only viable path to resolving the crisis, reflecting concern over the potential for the escalation between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. Also, escalation of the diplomatic military measures have been taken. Following the Pahalgam attack, India has implemented several punitive measures against Pakistan, including the suspension of the Indus Water Treaty, closure of the Atari integrated checkpost, suspension of visas and reduction in diplomatic staff. 6 days after Pakistan decided to shut its airspace to all flights owned and operated by the Indian carriers, New Delhi has announced a reciprocal move by shutting down its airspace to all Pakistan-owned and operated planes. Both India and Pakistan have now blocked each other's airline over their airspace till the 12 o'clock UTC on May 23rd, and also these may revise the closer to the date. Also, a NOTAM, or the Notice to the Air Mission, was released by the New Delhi, which read that the Indian airspace not available to Pakistan registered aircraft and also the aircraft operated or leased by the Pakistani airlines. These include military flights. Also, the move comes amid the escalating tension between the India and Pakistan in the wake of the horrific terror attack in the Jammu and Kashmir Pahalgam, in which 26 tourists were gunned down by the terrorists with the link of the Pakistan. Also, the terror attack was religiously motivated and came days after an inflammatory speech by the Pakistani army chief, that is General Amir Munir. Also, with the already sustained ties deteriorating between and the furthering of the situation at the time when the Pakistan is fearing the military action by India, flights from Pakistan were in the case avoiding the Indian airspace. But with an official announcement by India, its flights shall not be permitted even if they wished to. Also, the flights from Pakistan which are scheduled for the destinations in the Southeast Asia and Oceania will now have to circumnavigate India. This will put an immense burden on the already cash-strapped Pakistani carriers while also increasing travel time considerably. While India has taken a number of diplomatically punitive measures, including putting the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance, declaring Pakistani military diplomatic staff as its High Commission as persona non grata, closing all its border posts and cancelling all visas given to the Pakistani national. Islamabad too has also taken some measures like suspending all the trade, closing its airspace to the Indian Airlines and citing rights to suspend all bilateral pacts including the Shimla Agreement. Also, Pakistan is worried about an imminent military offensive by India, which has vowed to take action against those responsible for the terror attack in the Kashmir's Pahalgam. India has pledged to go to the ends of the earth to find terrorists and their backers and punish them beyond their imagination. The Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, that is the RSS, has said that it remains cautious about the caste census survey being used as a political tool, according to the sources. Also, the Sangh has not officially reacted to the Union government's decision to conduct a caste-based enumeration along with the decadal census. Also, the RSS has been traditionally opposed to the divisions and segregation on the basis of caste, but has taken a position that the issues such as the subcategorization and the introduction of a creamy layer within the quotas for the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe should be carried out after consultation and the consistent building with the stakeholders. Also, the Union government is also the decisions that is conducting the caste census survey came after a day when the Prime Minister Narendra Modi met the RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat at the former's official residence. The Sangh, which has been driving the Samajik Samarastra or the social harmony campaign to unify the Hindu society, has previously said that the issue of caste enumeration should be perceived as a political agenda. Addressing the media in the Kerala Palakkad in the September last year, the Sangh chief spokesperson Sunil Ambekar said that the caste relation are sensitive issues and important for the national unity and integration. So it should be dealt with very sensitively and not based on election or electoral politics, he said. In response to the question on the demand for the caste census, Ambekar then said that the RSS feels that for all the welfare activities, particularly those for the communities or caste which are lagging and which need special attention, if the government needs the number, it is a well-established practice. Earlier, such data was collected, but it should be done only for the welfare of those communities and caste. It should not be used as a political tool for elections. The RSS clarified that it had no objection to the collection of the caste data, provided it used for the public welfare and not for the divisive political electoral agendas. This statement is now being viewed as the crucial green light that enabled the Narendra Modi government to move forward without facing ideological backlash from its core support base. With the both Bihar ground level implementation and the RSS national level backing, the caste census now appears set to redefine the terms of India's socio-economic and political policy as well as electoral discourse. For the country still grappling with the realities of the social justice, representation and economic equity, this exercise could potentially provide the empirical foundation that the policymakers, financial and the welfare planners and the political leaders have long lacked. As the government prepares to embark on the massive data exercise, one thing seems clear, that is the politics of caste is entering a new phase and driven by the numbers, not just by the narratives. The Union Cabinet on Wednesday approved the development of the 166-kilometer greenfield high-speed corridor from the Moklingkhong in the Meghalaya to Panchagram in the Assam on the hybrid annuity made at the total cost of the 22,000 crore. Also, according to the official statement, the project length of the 166 kilometer, that is on the National Highway 6, lies in Meghalaya and the Assam, that is the 22-kilometer border. Also, the Cabinet Committee on the Economic Affairs chaired by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has approved the proposal for the development and maintenance and the management of the 4-lane greenfield, assessed that the controlled 166 kilometer of the National Highway number 6 also from the Moklingkhong near Shillong near the Meghalaya to the Panchagram, that is near Silchar in the Assam on the hybrid annuity mode at the total cost of 22,000 crore. The proposed greenfield high-speed corridor will improve the service level from the traffic moving between the Guwahati to Silchar, it has noted. Also, the development of this corridor will improve the connectivity to Tripura, Mizoram, Manipur and the Barak Valley region of Assam from the mainland and Guwahati with the substantially reduced travel distance and travel times, it said, adding that this will in turn contribute to the enhancement of the logistics efficiency of the nation. The corridor will also improve connectivity between Assam and the Meghalaya and spur economic development, including the development of industries in Meghalaya as it passes through the cement and the coal production areas of Meghalaya. As per the statement, this corridor will cater to the national and international tourists coming from the well-connected Guwahati Airport, Shillong Airport and Silchar Airport via the existing National Highway 06. Connecting Guwahati and the Silchar regions, this would also connect the scenic places of the tourist attraction in the northeast and promote tourism. The critical infrastructure project will improve the intercity connected and all the connectivity between the Guwahati, Shillong and Silchar. Also traversing through the Ri Bhoi, the East Khasi Hill, the West Jantia Hill and the East Jantia Hills in the Meghalaya and Kachar district in the Assam, and reduce congestion on the existing NH06 and enhance the transport infrastructure development in line with the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan. Also, the statement said that upon the completion, the Shillong Silchar corridor will also play a pivotal role in the region's economic growth, improving connectivity between Guwahati, Shillong, Silchar, Imphal as well and Agartala. The project aligns with the government's vision of the Atmanirbhar Bharat, enhancing the infrastructure while generating employment and fostering the socio-economic development in the Meghalaya, Assam, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura, it has added. Now bringing you latest updates on today's market trends. Global equity markets suffered steep losses today, with the major indices across the North and the South America experiencing a broad sell-off between the heightened investor anxiety. In the United States, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted 2,231 points or 5.50, closing at 38,000. Also, while the S&P 500 dropped 5.97% to reach 5,000 and the tech-heavy Nasdaq tumbled 5.82% to reach 15,000. The sharp decline reflects growing concern over the combination of factors, including the inflationary pressures, interest rate uncertainty, and potential earning disappointments. The Russell 2000, which tracks the smaller cap companies' stocks, was also hit hard, falling to 4.37% to 1,827. In the stark contrast, this SBCOE, the volatility index, the VIX index, often referred to as the market fear gauge, surged 50.93% to 45.31%, its highest spike in months, signaling a dramatic increase in the market volatility and the risk aversion. The investor appeared to be rapidly shifting out of the equities and into the safer asset or hedging their portfolios in anticipation of further turbulence. The sell-off extended beyond the United States border. The Canadian markets were deeply in the red, with the S&P TSX Composite Index falling 4.69% and the S&P TSX 60 down 4.44%, reflecting a widespread retreat from the risk across the sectors, including the energy, finance and materials. Also, the Latin America markets also faced significant pressures. Brazil Bovespa Index sank nearly 2.96%, losing over 3,800 points, while the Chile's S&P IPSA and Mexico's S&P BMV IPC dropped 2.79% and 4.87% respectively. Today's market action underscores rising unease among investors who are grappling with the tightening of the financial conditions, geopolitical tension and a general loss of the confidence in near-term economy stability. With the VIX spiking sharply and the key global indices shedding billions in the market value, sentiment has clearly shifted into a defensive mood. Also, the coming days will be critical in determining whether this is a short-term correction or the start of a deeper, more prolonged downturn. Commodity market reflected a day of divergence, with the significant movement observed across the energy, metal and agriculture sectors. Energy commodity faced strong headwinds, leading to days losses. WTI crude oil declined by 2.15% to settle at $60.66, while Brent crude oil dropped 2.21% to reach $64. These declines come amid the persistent concern about slowing economic activity, reduced financial fuel demand and increasing inventories in the major consuming areas. Also, the additional geopolitical tensions and the uncertainty surrounding the OPEC plus reduction strategies continue to weigh heavily on the investor sentiment in the energy space. Natural gas followed the suit, slipping 1.64% to reach $3, though still with a relatively stable range. It remains vulnerable to seasonal demand shifts and fluctuating storage data. In contrast, the metal segment painted a more optimistic picture. Gold advanced 1.10% to reach $3,000 and also maintaining its strong position near the upper end of the 52-week range. Investors appear to be rotating into the safe haven assets amid mounting concern over the inflationary pressures, currency volatility, and the broader macroeconomic instability. Silver posted the strongest gain of the day among the tracked commodities, jumping 4.57% to reach $3057. The sharp rise may also reflect increased industrial demand as well as renewed interest from investors seeking diversification away from the equities and fiat currencies. Also, agricultural commodities also showed resilience, with the soya bean inching up 1.07% to reach $9.88. The modest rise suggests continued global demand and the potential supply constraints due to the weather-related disruption in the key economic growing regions. The commodity is hovering close to the higher end of the 52-week range, indicating relative strength in the agricultural sector. Overall, today's performance illustrates a contrast between the declining energy prices and the upward momentum seen in the metal and agriculture. Market participants appear to be repositioning their portfolios in the anticipation of the economic shift, possibly favoring hard assets and essential over the cyclical commodities tied closely to the growth and the consumption of the countries. As the volatility continues to define market dynamics, commodity will likely remain a focal point for both hedging strategies and speculative plays in the day ahead. We'll be right back after a short break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi. Keep watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin.
Hello viewers, you are watching Millennium News 24. America and global villages seen to America independence built by immigrants, manufacturers, roads, highways, educations, healthcare, IT, scientists, space, business development to all thousands of multimedia and all major social media platforms and news network in America. Millennium News 24, one of truthfully news networks in America and global news organizations. Please watch, follow and subscribe. We are in iOS and Android devices, Roku, Amazon, Apple devices, all smart TV, globally Horizon satellite, social media Millennium News 24, Millennium TV 24. Website www.millenniumnews24.com and www.millenniumtv24.com. Thank you.
Welcome back after the break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin. Now let's look at some sports highlights. Like most of the cricket World Cup winning former India pacer Madan Lal is thoroughly impressed by the 14-year-old Vaibhav Suryavanshi's breathtaking IPL performance, but he has also a word of caution for the rising star. Talent alone won't be enough going forward. Also, Lal said that the prodigy from the Bihar's Samistapur would also be needed to be disciplined and focused to achieve greater successes. Also, he has very talented, but the talent alone doesn't guarantee success. He needs to be focused, disciplined and keep working hard. If his process is right, I believe that he can achieve amazing heights, Lal told the PTI videos. Also, Suryavanshi said the IPL ablaze with a record-breaking 35-ball century against the table toppers Gujarat Titan, and praise has poured in from all corners from the young swashbuckler. Also, I need that to be seen, the kid like this. When I was the captain of the Delhi team, Sachin Tendulkar played against us at a a very young age and scored around 80 runs in the Ranji Trophy semi-final. Then came Virat Kohli, who is still playing, and now everyone is talking about Sooryavanshi. He is also the making of a superstar, he said. Lal described Sooryavansh's hitting abilities as a God-given talent, but it's up to you how you want to work on it. Your sincerity, discipline, upbringing, these matter a lot. Family support is important too. When your parents are disciplined and supportive, that gives you added motivation, he explained. Also, Lal felt that the Sooryavanshi should play as much domestic cricket as possible going forward. Playing in different conditions against the various opponents help you grow, the reasoned. Teenage Barcelona forward Lamine Yamal said that he would not compare himself to Lionel Messi, and they put in the performance a 17-year-old Messi could have only dreamed in the one of the high all-time great Champions League semi-final ties. It led to him being called a genius, a cheat code and a phenomenal talent. Barca and the Inter Milan that ended up in the drawing 3-3 in their epic first leg encounter with the visiting fullback Denzel Dumfries involved in all threes, Inter goals, scoring twice and being named as the man of the match. But most of the global headlines will focus on the 17-year-old Yamal, who scored his 22nd goal on his landmark 100th Barcelona game. He also put on the masterclass, especially in the first half, to inspire a superb comeback after the Inter had 2-0 by the 21st minute. Yamal claimed a classy Champions League semi-final goal to go with one in the Euro 2024 last summers. Also already one of the best players in the world, and before he even turns 18. I don't think I have seen a 45-minute like from an individual before in my life. It is unbelievable, said the TNT Sports pundit, that is Ale McCoist, as the players walked off the pitch at the halftime. Inter Milan boss Simon also gave Yamal the highest of the praise afterward. Lamine in its kind of talent that comes along after every 50 years, and seeing him growing up and closely, very impressed by his performance, he said. Also, he caused us huge problems because we were supposed to double up on him and it wasn't enough. Barca boss Hansi Flick said that he's special, his genius. In the big matches he shows up. Also, if it's only comes every 50 years since, like Simon said, I'm glad it's for the Barcelona. BBC pundit Stephen Warnock called him a future Ballon d'Or winner. Also, one of the games of the season has everyone excited about the second leg at the San Siro in the Milan next week. A change of the pace from the Paris Saint-Germain's hard-fought 1-0 win at the Arsenal the day before. Also, there was a bit of drama between the game when the Yamal appeared that to hurt his groin and went down the tunnel during the warm-up, with speculation that he might not play. He did start but barely had an impact before Inter led 2-0 via the two fantastic goal. Marcus' 30-second backheel flick from the Dumfries cross and the Dutchman Dumfries flying close volley range. That's all for now. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with us for more updates. Log in to stay updated with the latest news on our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at Millennium News 24. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, Millennium News 24. You can also watch us on Android and iOS devices now, as well as on Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV and all smart TV platforms. Enjoy entertainment and latest news with us. Download the Millennium TV app, Millennium TV USA for Android and Millennium News on Google. Thank you for being part of Millennium News Channel 24.